Hi there and welcome. This is David, and I just would like to introduce you to this tool. It's called the Self-Awareness Assessment Tool, or the SAAT, Self-Awareness Assessment Tool. And real quick, what is this tool useful for? Well, let me ask you a few questions. Are you ready to release your subconscious blocks and limiting beliefs and limiting patterns? Are you ready to rediscover your true self and your hidden powers? Are you ready to get out of your own way? You know, a lot of us, we all get in our own way in different ways. So you're ready to get out of your own way, to release your brakes and to fly and soar. Literally, release your brakes and then poof, take off. If you are, then it's time to know yourself. And you do that. You know yourself, know thyself, by cultivating the practical skill of mindfulness, which is also known as detached awareness or, witnessing. Now, what this does is it allows you to witness yourself instead of being identified with yourself. Now, we're going to put the word self in quotes, okay? To give the idea that you can literally detach, not ignore, not block, not resist, not fight with, but literally pop out and watch. And this act of detachment increases our self-awareness, which increases our self-knowledge, which increases our self-mastery, and allows us to, bust out of limiting beliefs. It actually reveals, it shines light on hidden limitations and blockages and belief systems and all that sort of stuff. It's a very powerful practice. It's been around for thousands of years. It's just that people don't teach it that well, and people don't use it consistently through the day. They kind of try and find like 5 minutes mindfulness meditation in the morning. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a lifestyle where mindfulness is an integral part of your day. The whole day, you do everything you always do as normal, but with mindfulness. Now, let me give you a quick example of how that works. Let's talk about what we mean when we say witnessing ourselves instead of being identified with ourselves or attaching to ourselves or resisting it. Let's take an extreme example. In this case, let's say depression. So people, when they're depressed, a lot of them, when you talk to them, you hear them say things like, I am depressed. In other words, they identify with that state of depression. They are stuck with it, that's attachment, or they're resisting it. I wish I wasn't depressed. You see, that attachment and resistance to the phenomenon called depression is what creates an identity around it and makes you completely blind to everything else and very focused on that one thing. Do you see what we're talking about here? So the reverse of that, the reverse of identification of resistance and attachment is detachment. It's being able to say, it's fine, I'm experiencing depression. It's fine that it's there. So you're not trying to resist it. You're not trying to do anything with it or fix it. You're simply noticing it's there. But because you've taken on the step of a witness, you notice it as simply as phenomena crossing your awareness. Just like the way you see clouds passing by the sky, or you see flies passing by, flying by you. That's the same way you treat all phenomena, all thought forms, all emotions. You don't resist them. You don't try and block them or push them away or fix them or correct them or whatever. You allow them to be what they are, but you witness them. So it literally creates that pop, and you become free. And then you notice when you do that, you're also aware of all the other things that are happening. So for example, back to a depression example, the person who is depressed is aware of all the other things that are happening in addition to depression. But the person who is identified is hardly aware of anything else. They're completely hypnotized and hooked by the depression. So that's the values. I've given you one quick example, but this is a thing that you can use in any vision or goal that you're attempting to manifest, or just, situations you're trying to create or not or uncreate or whatever. This is a very powerful tool. So what I've done is I've created this self-assessment, a self-awareness assessment tool. And to be perfectly honest and clear with you, a lot of these definitions that we're going to be going through, and you'll see them, are actually taken from the Buddhist and yogic schools of thoughts, because when you don't deal with the religion of Buddhism, or you don't deal with the what people know as yoga, and you look at it purely from what it was, you realize that it was a psychology tool, a self-mastery tool. So a lot of this, even the definitions are literally, I went and copied directly from the yogic and Buddhist psychology systems, but they're extremely good. They give you the ability to achieve self-mastery very independently, so you don't have to necessarily, go see a psychiatrist or things like that. Although I'm not saying they're not useful, they are. It's very useful to have somebody that you can talk with and bounce ideas from, whether that's your coach or your mentor or your psychiatrist or whatever it is that your anything, and also to do it in groups is all very helpful. But I'm saying that it's also nice to have a tool that you can apply by yourself throughout the day when you don't have access to this, coaches, mentors, blah blah blah, groups and so on. So I'll just read through this with you and clarify it. So the aim of this tool is to help you to learn how to self-assess and become increasingly self-aware. That's another way of saying become awake, because a lot of times we're asleep, when we're identified and attached and in resistance and blah blah blah. We're literally asleep, like in trance. We're hypnotized by our own conditioning, you see. Kind of slaves to our patterns of thoughts and emotions. That's what you call karma. It's like a conditioned response that is just driven by patterns. So it's not free. You're not free to be so spontaneous and to whatever. You're just kind of following the same pattern. So this tool pops you out of the patterns, so you can become free. Self-mastery, that's what it is. So this tool, the aim of this tool is to help you learn how to self-assess and become increasingly self-aware or awake. Now this tool is for you to assess yourself. So this is not a medical or psychological self-assessment tool. And in addition to that, your coach is also not here to diagnose you or analyze you with this tool. So this tool is not a diagnostics or analysis. It's not, you know what I mean? We're not looking at you when you use this tool as a problem to be fixed. Nah, that's not it. You're not a problem to be fixed, And yeah, so this is not a diagnosis or analysis, okay? This is very important to get this. This is very important to get this. So we got to get out of the problem mindset. We're not trying to fix anything. We're simply trying to shine light so we can see, open our eyes. That's all this is, okay? So this is a mindfulness awareness training tool to help you inquire into and see the true nature of your being. The coach simply facilitates and helps you on your own self-exploration, your introspection, and your observation, your witnessing of the self mechanisms that are happening inside you, because those are what create your reality. When you're talking about I create my reality, it's not just about what you put on your vision board and visualize that creates your reality. It's the whole system of self that creates the self reality, so that the outside is a mirror of the inside. So it's important to notice those machines as they work inside you, so then you can go, I don't need this part, or let's put that part in, or let's put some oil there, let's whatever, or I don't need this whole component jacket, whatever. But without that clarity, without that self-awareness, you cannot do that. You remain like a slave of the patterns. That's what's called karma. Karma is not that, I did something good and so I'm going to get rewarded. Somehow it works that way because there's the cause and effects chain of sequence. But karma is more the conditioned response. You see, the machinery has its own ways. For example, let's talk about it as a machine. You'll get thirsty, and when you're thirsty, you'll want to drink water. And when you want to drink water, that's it. At some point, that's all you can think about. You're like, water, man. Somebody could give you something amazing, but you don't care because you're dying of thirst. You just want water. God could come and say, what do you want? Anything. And you'll go, water, because that's where your machine has reached. Or let's say you're hungry or you want to go to the bathroom or something. There's a point that will get whereby that machine will drive you, Now, those are the obvious things, but we are driven by machines, by thought and emotional patterns that were conditioned so deep over such a long time that we don't even realize. We found many of them, we were born into them. So they are almost ancestral and societal. I call them the mass consciousness. That's a machine that's driving you. Like pushing you in directions that sometimes you don't even really want, but you don't have to. Once you get self-awareness, you can witness it, and then that pushing force can literally flow through you without necessarily moving you. And then at some point it will become so its strength to affect you will become so reduced that it's almost like a blip. Doesn't matter. So that's the point. That's the power of this tool. I'm really trying to encourage you to use this tool, right? So where were we? We were reading this, right? And the ultimate aim of increasing your self-awareness is that you will gradually become detached. You'll become dehypnotized by the phenomenon that is crossing your awareness. And that phenomenon that's crossing your awareness includes your thoughts and emotions. So it's not like you resist and block them or whatever. They will still happen. In fact, they'll happen with more openness, more vulnerability, but they won't take you down, or they won't drive you in directions that you don't want. So that's what we mean by becoming dehypnotized by the phenomenon crossing your awareness. And you'll be able to see through the fog. A lot of us are in fog. We don't even see the opportunities. We don't see the chances. We don't. Sometimes we just see the dark. We don't see the light. Things like that. That fog. We'll be able to see through the fog and recognize our true self. So this tool clears away our false identities. I think you've heard the word masks. That's the societal masks. So like, for example, when you leave your house and you meet society, you've got a different mask on when you're dealing with your superiors, or people who are like your boss. Maybe if you have a boss at work or whatever, or people who are like, we call juniors or subordinates. If you're like in charge of people, you got different masks. Let's say you're dealing with your friends or certain partners or whatever, different masks. So a lot of them are useful and practical, but a lot of them actually keep us limited. So because the reason why we built the mask is so we can survive and interface with society and with XYZ. And so in a way they are useful, but in a way they're also limited. So there's a point at which they cross over and they become the limiting factor, the brakes, And so it also clears away our limiting beliefs. That's more brakes, So it lets us release our brakes. So this, therefore, is a self-liberation tool. And it's liberation from our limiting conditioning, our subconscious blocks, and so on. And when you do this periodically, when you self-assess using this particular tool periodically, and I don't mean every day, periodically. So what that does is it increases your self-mastery. So what we suggest and what we teach, what I teach in especially the Go Limitless course and coaching, it's that and in the Radical Mindfulness course, is that this mindfulness is a thing that you practice throughout the day. So it's not a thing that you say, okay, at 10 a.m. I'm going to sit down on my mat and I'm going to do 10 minutes of mindfulness. I mean, that's good. That's got some value. But we're talking about your regular day. Whatever you do during the day, don't change it, but just do it without witnessing, rather than just, I'm so hypnotized, I'm just this character. It's like more like, okay, I'm watching the character. Not I am the character, it's I'm watching the character. That's mindfulness throughout the day. And when you then combine it with actually, because that's just throughout the day. When you then combine it with this tool, whereby now you sit down and you start filling in the fields that I'm going to show you shortly in a short while. When you start filling in those fields, what happens then is that you're better able to capture. It's kind of like a journal. You're able to have even another level of self-awareness. So when you fill in these fields, like you run through this form maybe once every every week, once a week, once a month minimum, and then you review it with your coach, at least, whatever, and then you review it over time so that you go like, okay, I've got my records, because when you fill this form, what we do is we send you a PDF automatically, so you save that. So let's say you've got 2-3 months worth of it, and you'll see your progress. And then you'll even get even more self-awareness, because sometimes you forget stuff, you know what I mean? So by looking at your history, you go, wow. And then you even pop even better, you know what I mean? So reviewing it yourself over time, reviewing it with your coach, and filling this in at least once a month, maybe once a week if you can, but at least once a month really does wonders. So before we get started, right now on the screen you can see this graphic with numbered sort of symbols, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the 5-step quantum leap. So I've got this method, I call it the quantum leap method of manifesting pretty much anything without fail. And the reason why we say without fail is because failure is actually, what we term as failure is actually steps that clarify ourselves to ourselves and clarify the way the world works to ourselves. So there's no such thing as failure. So you actually want to fail fast, fail frequently, because then you accelerate to the end point, So for example, when Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb, the light bulb, he figured out that he needed the material he needed to use inside the light bulb is called tungsten. He found that on the 10,000th experiment. So he did 9,000 and something failed experiments before he found tungsten. Look at where the world is today because this dude didn't quit at experiment 7,000. The whole world got lit up. So the faster he was willing to fail and not go, oh man, I really suck, man, I'll never get this shit right. He was just like, okay, don't use paper, don't use wood, don't use metal. Tungsten! You see? And along the way, he tweaked and tracked. So the 5-step quantum leap method literally allows you to just leapfrog. And it's got 5 steps. Number 1 is visualize masterfully, because there is a way to visualize that involves all your systems. So, so it's not just like a simple affirmation and a photograph. It's something that involves all your systems. There's a masterful way to visualize. Then number 2 is to add the force multiplier. That basically is this. A lot of times we try to achieve things or get somewhere or fix something or whatever it is or become free by ourselves with our own egoic energy. Whereby when you add a force multiplier, it allows you to achieve so much more with so much less effort and probably much less time. The force multiplier is 2 things. 1, you employ the true nature of reality, the quantum nature of reality. So you get off the mechanical, I got to do everything manually by force, and you get into the quantum way of looking at things, employing the quantum nature of reality. That's and we get into that in the actual course and coaching, the Go Limitless one. Then the second force multiplier is actually your own divinity. Now, a lot of us are in denial of our own divinity, somehow, because of that, all that religious bullshit that we've had to go through, it makes us kind of like go, or I don't believe it, or it's not true, or whatever. But, I'm just encouraging you. Yes, a lot of us are damn tired of religions and we don't want to have anything to do with them. I'm one of them, and I'm not saying that everybody should be. If you're a religious person and you've got your religion, that's all good. Everyone to each their own. I'm just saying Personally, I don't do religions, but at the same time, deeply spiritual. So there's spirit exists, divinity exists. Just cause maybe a religious experience may have tainted your personal experience doesn't mean you throw the whole, you don't throw the baby with the with the water. What's the saying when you throw the baby out with the wash basin and the water? I don't know. You don't throw the whole thing out. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you add these 2 force multipliers, it's amazing. Divinity and the quantum nature of reality. Okay, number 3 is plan and do. That's pretty much what it sounds like. Making a plan. Now, most of the times things don't go according to plan, but that doesn't mean you should make a plan, because a plan sort of forces you to gain the knowledge of the way things work. So it's and then as you execute that plan, you refine that knowledge. So it's important. Things are not going to go according to plan, but that doesn't mean don't plan. You know what I mean? And do means literally pull the trigger. Don't overanalyze it. You'll get the feedback later and that will fix whatever. So you got to do. So do is like the 3rd step of receiving reality, because first you got to visualize whatever and do all this. Creation starts in the vision, in the non-physical, and then it becomes physical. So you cannot escape both. You have to do both. So doing is not the beginning of creation. It is the end, but it has to happen. So then number 4 is eliminate obstacles, which is releasing your brakes. And now that's where this form comes in. you're going to find that most obstacles in your life, at least I have found, are internal obstacles. External obstacles are whereby, let's say you believe you don't have a resource or you don't have the knowledge to do something. You can fix that quite easily, especially like the knowledge. You can go YouTube, whatever, find out how to do a thing, and boom, you're done. But that doesn't mean you'll do the thing. You know what I mean? So because the internal obstacles are they're like 80%, and the external obstacles are 20% of what block our progress. Internal is the 80%. That's the big gorilla. The external obstacles, how can you do this? How can I do, let's say, Facebook advertising? How can I surf? How can I learn how to surf? How can I learn how to be a better parent? Whatever. There's instructions galore. But the stuff inside may prevent you from seeing the instructions and from following the instructions. That's the big obstacle. And that's where this self-awareness assessment tool comes in. And it also comes into step 5, which is test, track, and tweak. Because you want to just start now. Whatever it is you're doing, start now. Don't wait until you're perfectly ready, everything is aligned and all that. No, just start. Pull the trigger, boom. Reality will give you feedback, and then from there you'll notice, let me correct. So test, track, tweak. Test, tweak, and track. Test, tweak, and track. Now, there's a whole bunch of cool things you can learn within those 5 steps to make each step super better. And that's what the course and the coaching is all about. But for now, we know that this self-awareness assessment tool, the SAAT, just going to call it that, it's easier, fits in step 4 and step 5 of this whole process. Now you know where it fits in, right? It fits in step 4 and step 5. And basically, as you use it, you realize that it actually fits into step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But we sort of learn it as a step 4 thing. Then we realize it's a step 5 thing as well. Then over time, we realize it's also a step 1, 2, and 3 thing. But anyways, let's not get crazy. So let's get started. This is how you use the form. The date is automatically filled for you. You don't actually have to do anything. Now, it's a required field. Whenever you see a red dot, that means a required field. So let's say, I don't know, learn skateboarding. Just gonna put something crazy here. That's my vision or goal. So you have to put in a vision or goal that you're working on, because that's how you're gonna sort of measure yourself against. We need sort of an anchor that we can use to measure ourselves against. Does that make sense? So it's not really that the vision or goal is the thing. It's the journey that's the thing. But then you need that kind of like bullet, target at the end, which is now the vision or the goal, for the journey to actually, happen. So, you fill that in, you fill in your name, whatever, fill in your email. These are all required fields because obviously we're going to email your PDF to you and all that sort of stuff. And then this is very important. You have to sign this. You cannot move forward without signing here. And you can sign it with your mouse or your finger, or if you have an iPad or you're using this on a phone or something. But here, look, I have to, man, I wish I could just, okay, let me just do something, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. Okay, you see, oh man, why can it not do that? Okay, I'm just going to read it. I promise to commit to being raw, real, and radically honest with myself as I fill in this assessment form. This is very important. Don't bullshit yourself, because we are all very good at bullshitting ourselves. We are super good at it, like super good. Like we'll answer, like I say, oh, how's it going? Instead of saying, how is it going right now? We'll say how we wish it was going or how we think it will go later. No, and that's cool. That's like a white lie or whatever. A little lie, but we need to not do those little lies, man. This form is where you report things as they are, raw and real and radically honest with yourself, not as you wish they could be or anything like that. That's the way it works. If you don't, you're not gonna get the best results. So it's for your own good. So then you click next. Now we've got this video here. This is not a must. This is for those of you who have never practiced the technique of mindfulness or self-awareness before. You can watch this YouTube video. This is a TEDx presentation. This is such a lovely video. It will really give you an idea of how to do mindfulness, at least to begin with, because what we don't want to do is for you to wait until you learn the technique and then you can start filling in this form or start doing. No more procrastination. Wherever you are right here, right now, you go. That's it. No, whatever. Now, So if you feel you don't know how to do mindfulness, watch this video. It's very short. I can't remember how long it is, but it's very short. It's 10 minutes maybe. And later, if you want to become even more skilled at practicing mindfulness, we have a course. We have a premium course called Radical Mindfulness, and we give this to all our, if you get the Go Limitless course or the coaching, we give you Radical Mindfulness as a free premium bonus. So that course will teach you how to get real deep into it. But it takes a while, to go through the course. So for now, don't procrastinate. Don't use that as an excuse. Oh, I don't know how to do mindfulness. No excuses. We just go as we are right here, right now. I give you permission to mess it up. It's all good. Don't worry. Give yourself permission to mess it up. Always. So watch this video if you feel that you're not ready and don't know mindfulness enough. Otherwise, And then here, there's a little bit of instructions on what to observe and witness as we get into the questions, because from the next screen we're going to get into the questions. So read this up. It will tell you some of the things that it'll give you some hints on additional things you can sort of practice to witness within yourself and to watch within yourself. So read that, and then you go next, and then you've got the 5 states of mind. So now we start the self-awareness. Okay, now we're going to start to become aware of our mind, and the first thing we're going to become aware of in our mind is our state of mind. Okay, now again, remember I said I copied a lot of this from the yogic, Buddhic, tantric practices. But tantric is not about tantric sex. I mean, there's a little bit of tantra that involves tantric sex, but in the Western world, whenever we hear the word tantra, we go, wow, is he talking about tantric sex? I'm not talking about tantric sex. You've probably seen tantric sex books everywhere, because they're pretty much everywhere, but that's not what Tantra is about. That's a tiny aspect of what Tantra is about. Tantra is about increasing self-awareness through the senses, by accepting yourself fully as you are human divine, whereas a lot of other practices are like, no, desire and the senses are what make us get lost, and so we have to avoid that. Tantra goes, yes, that's true. That's what makes us get lost, but that's also the path to liberation. Don't try to avoid it. You can't avoid it. Get into it and see how it works. And then that way you'll, be in this world, but not driven by it. Like, the point is to enjoy the world. Enjoy yourself, right? But don't get swept up by it and lost. You know what I mean? So Tantra, that's basically what Tantra is about. Tantra, yogic, Buddhic, psychology, that's where a lot of this is copied from. So I hand on heart, I did copy paste this definitions of these terms, okay? So, but it's a form, so you can't put references on it, just being honest about the parts if and when I do plagiarize anything, So witness the mind as it goes about the general day-to-day activities, especially in regards to the vision that you wish to achieve. So the question is to observe your mind. At what level is it functioning, and what else do you notice about it? So as you can see, there are 5 ways that the mind works. It works as a monkey mind. That's when the mind is distracted, agitated, chaotic, fickle. It's just, it's restless and it's all over the place. And you can read more about it there. So I'm not going to read everything. Donkey mind is where, you got that dull, sluggish, lazy mind, which is also kind of like very addicted, but also lacking in energy and concentration and so on. Then you've got a butterfly mind, which sometimes on the ground and in the donkey and monkey mind state, and other times it leaps into the skies and it kind of like enters this clear state, and then it goes down again, and then it goes up again. So that's a butterfly mind. It alternates between clarity and confusion, balance and imbalance. And these are all stages of awareness that as you go through the practice, you'll notice your mind going, becoming like clear and pure and able to get rid of bullshit and execute. And so the outcomes all of a sudden become so much easier because you don't have to fight and struggle with yourself all day, So the next level is the one-pointed, and the final is a fully focused mind. That one has like deep stillness It has unconditional peace, meaning doesn't matter what happens with phenomenon outside. People could be screaming at you, calling you names, doing whatever. It's undisturbed, man. You know what I mean? It's the peace that surpasses all understanding. Man, old English is weird, eh? Like indescribable, unconditional peace. Doesn't matter what happens, you're cool. You know what I mean? So the way to do this is you select one. You can only select one. Remember, it has a date and the goal, so don't worry, this will all be in part of your record. And anything else you can observe, you type that in here. You go next. And then the 6 steps to inner peace. Pick one that describes you most. So inner peace happens automatically when your self-realization increases. And so by observing inner peace, you can also get to know more about your own self-realization, because it's kind of like observing the symptom to diagnose the being. So just witness how your being is as it goes about the general day-to-day activities, especially in regards to this particular vision or goal that you wish to achieve. And then notice at what level is it functioning, what else do you notice about it. And so these are the possible states. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first one is doubt, which is low trust in ourselves and low trust in life, low trust in the universe, low trust in our direction, path, or practice, and so on. Then you go faith and trust. You can read more about that. Faith or trust is the same word, right? And then you got faith plus energy plus mindfulness. These names actually, these steps actually have different names and in the Far East yogic whatever practices, but I just rename them in ways that are easier to sort of consume. So then you got faith plus energy, mindfulness plus focus. Then you got faith, energy, mindfulness, focus, and wisdom. But the wisdom here is not like, oh, I read this stuff in a book kind of wisdom. This is the knowledge, the wisdom that comes from within you, that is usually blocked by all the shit and the crap that we've been conditioned and programmed with, and we've told ourselves and all this, all these things. Okay, so when that cloud, that fog lifts, you find that you have wisdom that is crystal clear, and it just knows. It's your inner voice, and you can hear it. If you can hear it, it just guides you like smooth through life, no worries. Even in challenges, you just go through the challenges like you go through fire. The fire doesn't burn you. You go through storms, the storms don't crush you. There is that state. It does exist. Whereas when you're up here in doubt, you go through fire, and you burn and you back out and you go back home and you try again tomorrow and you burn some more. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So the mind is very interesting. So it's good to notice and observe it, And soon you'll realize you are not your mind. You are that which has a mind and observes a mind. You are not your emotions. You're that which has emotions and observes emotions. You're not your body. You're that which has a body and observes. You'll realize at some point when you go through this that your awareness, that silent witness, is more your true self. These are just phenomenons and tools and equipment that you have, and you pick them up and you drop them and you do this. So a lot of times we identify with the equipment and the phenomenon and the energies, and that's the problem. When you pull back and you realize, no, I'm the one that experiences this thing, then the whole thing starts to change. So anyways, you pick something that, be truthful. Don't pick what you'd like. Don't say, oh, I want to be at the top, so you pick that, whereas maybe you're over here. No, remember, radical honesty. Don't bullshit yourself, man. It won't help you anyways. Then if there's anything, you can type there some more observations. And this is interesting. Now we go to the emotional state. So regarding that particular vision or goal, what is your main emotional state? Obviously you have many emotional states, but which one do you reckon is your main one? So this is from a book called Power versus Force. What happened is these doctors took people and attached them to various equipment such as MRIs and all that sort of stuff, EEGs, those things that measure brain and energy levels and power through the body and all that sort of stuff, that medical gear. So anyways, so they hook people up on them and they were able to measure the power or the strength of various emotional states, and it's ridiculous. It's amazing how more powerful the positive emotions are. And so when you look at this image here, there's a God view column, you've got a life view column, you've got a level column, you've got a scale column, you've got an emotion column, you've got a process column. So let me quickly talk about each one of those, because the book is that thick, so I'm just gonna summarize it, butcher it almost. So let's start with the emotion column, which is the second last. The emotion is, find the emotion that you're feeling about a thing, okay? Then that emotion will also tell you what these researchers found out. Let's say, for example, if your emotion is, let's go down, regret or despair. Let's go to despair, okay? Your life process, that's the one on the right, is abdication. Means you just kind of give up and you go, fuck it, I'm screwed. That's the way it is, and I'm hopeless, kind of like, yeah. And then when you look at the scale, it says 50. Now I'll get to the scale in a second, because that's actually a logarithmic scale. That's like 10 to the power of 50. Whereas at the top there, if you look at the very first top line where emotion is ineffable, the scale says 700 to 1,000. That's 10 to the power of 1,000. So 10 to the power of 50 is very different from 10 to the power of 1,000. We're saying 10 with, I don't know how to say this. Let's say 50 zeros. I'm just giving you a very butchered explanation, so a mathematician will probably correct me and say I'm doing it wrong. But I want to give you the scale of difference. So 10 with 50 zeros, whereas on the other one is 10 with 1,000 zeros. So imagine a number that has 1,000 zeros versus a number that has 50 zeros. The one with 1,000 zeros is like super big compared to the one with 50 zeros. So this scale, don't read it as, it's 50 to 1,000. No, it's not 50 to 1,000. It's 10 with 50 zeros to 10 with 1,000 zeros. It's like a massive difference in power. Anyways, back to the example. So let's say despair, life process is abdication, giving up. The power is very low, and that's a scale. Now look at the level column, apathy. Apathy is where you just kind of like give up. You view life, your life view becomes kind of hopeless, and you look at God as a condemning person or being. Whereas let's say now look at the top. Let's say serenity, or let's pick something else. Let's say emotion is optimism. The life process, you'll have intention, because you're optimistic. You'll find that automatically you have intention to make things better or whatever, because you're optimistic. Your power has gone up to 310, 10 with 310 zeros added to it. Your level is one of willingness. You're hopeful, and you find God to be an inspiring being. Whereas if you go one more up to forgiveness, your life process starts to become transcendent. You start to transcend the dualities, the bad and the good. You transcend the polarities of life. You are more accepting. You find that your life view is harmonious, and you find your God view is merciful. At the very top, where you're operating as pure consciousness, the level, I don't know why they call it enlightenment, but let's call it that. It's above peace and joy and love. Life just is. So you're even beyond accepting it. Like, yeah, it just is. And you are one with the Creator. You don't see a sense of separation between the Creator, the act of creation, and the created or the creature. It's all one. I and my Father are one. That's what Jesus used to walk around saying, right? That's that God view. Cool. So real quick, figure out the main emotion, write some notes here. Let's say regarding this vision, my main emotion truly is X. See, right? And then you make some notes. The more notes you make, the better. This is not for me, this is for you. So you don't want to make notes whereby 3-4 months from now, when you look back, you're like, what the hell did that mean? Why did what did that word mean? Because that's going to happen. If you get lazy and type one word like happy, you like 5 months later, you're like, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? So you need to be a bit more detailed. This is for you. And then your main attitude towards yourself when it comes to this vision. Are you practicing, you know, are you in a place whereby it's all good, you have that self-acceptance regardless whether this goal comes about or not, you are fully self-accepting and you're fine, so you have kindness and compassion to yourself, and that way your beingness feels safe? Or is it the other way around? Are you hard on yourself, judging yourself, harsh, you know, self-rejection, unfriendly, and therefore your beingness feels unsafe? So you can pick one, and if you have any notes, write them down there. And then the 4 functions of the heart mind, we're getting close to the end now. The heart mind is basically one, you know, we think of thoughts and emotions as separate things, or the heart and the mind as separate things, but they're actually one system. It's like a twin star, so it works together. That's why when you have sad thoughts, you have sad feelings. You don't have sad thoughts and happy feelings, do you? Because it's the one engine. So it's like one spectrum. On this end, it has language, so it's like thoughts. It has syntax. It's got language, and on this end, it's got affect, so it's in your body, so it's like emotion or feeling or whatever, you know. So there are 4 functions of this machine called the heart mind. So and when you start to witness, because a lot of times we just feel and think things, so we just say, oh, my mind, oh, my emotions, and that's it. So we're not able to discern the different things that are happening in there. So we remain lost. But when you're witnessing, you start to discriminate and discern the things that are in there, at least let's say the functions. This time we're talking about the 4 functions. And so you can actually categorize and go, oh, that's actually just coming from my memory, or that's coming from my conditioning, oh, that's coming from this, you know. You can easily, whatever. And that starts to give you stability and clarity and so on. Now, the 4, what I've done is separate them into 4, and now this time I'm using the Sanskrit words for them from those Buddhic, yogic, tantric traditions. So these ones are called manas. Manas are the sensory processing mind. In other words, we have 5 senses, you know, 5 senses, and these go directly to the brain, to the mind, and so this is what we call the lower mind, you know, the manas. And it keeps us bound to our sensory experience, but also helps us interact with our 3D environment. The process is, when you become too attached and bound to that, you become what we call materialistic. And so it's not about the material things being bad, it's about them being your God and putting you down, and you're their bitch, basically. You know what I mean? So you know, if you're somebody who's too bound to this, they get bound to habits, to addictions, to conditioned responses, to graft desires, and so on. And this is where the attachment and resistance comes. For example, I'll give you an example. You know, people who are addicted to food because of the taste. Think about how crazy this is, right? Taste is not all over the body. It's on the tongue, and it's not on the whole tongue. You got like 3 strips that have taste buds. So imagine putting your whole body and your whole life at the mercy of this 3 inches or 2 inches or whatever. So that, you know, somebody who's driven by gluttony and they cannot stop because they just want to keep tasting stuff for whatever reasons, and we're not judging them. Maybe, you know, whatever. People don't just do that because they're stupid. They're trying actually to fulfill a need in a way. Maybe they're using the wrong process, but, you know, they're trying to self-medicate in a certain way, but using the wrong things. But anyways, so this is not a judgment call. This is just kind of pointing out an obvious of how manners, once, although useful, sticking to them or being ruled by them is just, you know, weird. So somebody who just needs to keep tasting that, oh, I can't, oh, the taste, oh, yeah. So their whole life is being compromised and driven because of 3 inches on their tongue, you know? The health, the lethargy, the energy, ability, whatever, the self-image, all that compromised because of 3 inches. See how seductive the mind can get if you don't kind of break it down just to see, and not in an obsessive way, just witnessing it, you know, so you don't have to get all crazy and nutty about it. So those are the manners. So you write, in regards to this goal or vision, what can you observe as the workings in your own self? Then you got chitta, which is storage and impressions, which in the West we call memory, but it's not really accurate. You can't, it's, think about it this way. From the beginning from day one, when you're conceived, when you're still in the womb, you're collecting responses. So much digital, electronic, electromagnetic stuff is coming in, whether it's thoughts, emotions, sensations, whatever, temperature variations, so much. Then you get born, then whatever. So that whole collection, all that heap, you can call it storage of impression. So it's not necessarily memory. It is all of that. It's like you got this supercomputer that's recording everything and doesn't lose nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can call it conditioning and memory, and I don't know. So the word chitta is much more than we can expand with one word in English. Anyway, so if you tend to get caught in chitta, you may have a habit of recalling the past all the time and dwelling there more than is necessary, more than it feels good, and so on. Replaying embarrassing or dumb moments that you didn't like, or whatever, ruminating about past hurts. And especially if you have, let's say, any sort of trauma or things that make you get stuck, that tends to happen more. And a certain amount of that is sort of unavoidable and even necessary, so you can learn. But if that's a predominant state to the point whereby you're not in the present here now, which is your only point of power, you're mostly in your past, in your head or whatever, and in your emotions too, not just in your head, in emotions too, that can really create a lot of misery and also block you. That's also a break. Or if you spend your time and mental resources worrying about the future and dreaming about it to the point whereby it's gone beyond practical planning, because there is a point that we have this ability so you can plan the future a little bit. But if we're like obsessed and stuck there, that's also a problem, right? So yeah, because then you get stuck in procrastination, worry, and all that sort of stuff. And then you got the third function of the mind is the ego, which is the one that makes the sensation of I. So by the way, that sensation of I, myself, is manufactured. It's hard to explain. I'm not going to bother trying to explain it here, but it's literally manufactured. It's manufactured by our biology, by a certain segment of our brain. If you switch this off, you'll literally not feel a boundary or beginning on an end. That's the tree there and that's me here. It'll all seem like one. Anyways, so this I maker, the ego, is very important because it helps us navigate this space-time dimension, this 3D reality that we've created, or 4D, 5D, whatever. But then it only does a good job when it's awakened and it's placed in its rightful position. It's a tool. It's absolutely necessary for a healthy functioning in this world. We do need an ego. However, when the ego is unconscious, it's and is like struggling around and doing whatever, and it fully believes in the illusion of separation. So, the manufactured thing becomes real. The illusion of separation is so real, and the thing is so conditioned, and then it's the boss. That's hell on earth. When the unconscious ego becomes the boss of your life, mate, that's not a good place to be in. And unfortunately, that's where most of us spend a lot of our time in. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And the worst thing is that the ego is super clever. It is that voice in your head that belittles you and tells you you're not good enough, gives you imposter syndrome. I get it too. I get all the time, it's like, who are you to go teach these people anything? What the hell do you know? Is your life perfect? It tells me that kind of shit too. But it's possible to like have it such that it takes you down so much you don't do anything, or to have it whereby you're like, oh, you're back again, my old friend. Keep talking, and it just kind of fritters away. So these two extremes are possible, It may never completely go, because remember, you're always going to have an ego as long as you're a living human being. So the dark, the let's call it the unconscious aspect of it, every now and then may creep. But when with the less mastery you have, the more it takes over, and that's all you know. But the more mastery you have, the less it's kind of like when you're walking along the pathway and there's this dog that barks, and then it's just cool. You know what I mean? So it can come up in so many ways as different personas, different identities. Have you ever thought, like, that doesn't sound like me, why did I do that? So you have many personas, maybe sub-identities, some of them little cells that are complete, with their own thought forms, emotions, needs, and all that. and they're usually undercover. You don't realize them until a trigger comes, and then boom, the whole thing comes. It's like a different alter ego, and you're completely lost, and it takes over until it's gone again, you know. So the more you witness this, the more you see how they operate, blah, what the triggers are, and then the more you're able to, you know, have that. So again, I should have been typing something here, otherwise it won't let me proceed. So again, you know, you just go ahead and type your observations. Remember, you're feeling this every week or every month, so this is kind of like what you've witnessed over the past week or the past month, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, depending on how often you want to feel this in. And then the final function of the mind is what we call the buddhi, the pure mind. This just knows. We talked about this when we were talking about the inner knowingness. It comes when it's completely unclouded by all those other you know, the manas, the chittas that we saw, the amkara, or the ego. So when, you know, when the manas get the instructions from the habit pattern stored in the chitta, remember the memory, blah blah blah, the karmic whatever, and then they're colored by your ego, those selves or personas, whew, you're lost. You know what I mean? You're kind of like on automatic. You've gone until it releases you, you know. So the buddhic is where, like, you have that stillness, and all these manas and chittas and, you know, amkaras can be going on, and you're just that eye at the center of the storm. So you're not trying to fight them, because you cannot. If you try and fight them, engage them, you power them more, and they become more crazy. They become what do you call it? You know, like when you try and resist thinking of, like, you know, have you seen those people who like try and stop thinking about sex? They become perverted. So you're trying to stop an energy that cannot be killed. So it becomes the perverse, the shadow aspect, and it becomes weird. So you cannot fight these things, but you can be at a place where it transcends and they're just phenomenal. You know, that's the point of this whole thing. So anyways, I'm going to type something in there, and now I believe we've come to the end. Oh, there's one more, sorry. This is easy. 5 primitive functions. We all have a body which has needs, and when we neglect them, they also become that perverted, weird stuff we were talking about, and they start to drive us in unconscious, in unbalanced ways. So it's important to write, you know, in terms of play, fun, activities, exercise, you know, how are you going? Food, nutrition, how are you going? Because obviously, if you eat stuff that makes you like, dull and it's not as good as the one that wakes you up and makes you clear, right? Sleep. Enough sleep, too much, too little, because you can have both. There's too much, too little. And again, be careful. I personally believe not everybody needs 8 hours. It depends. A baby needs like 12 hours, 14, you know what I mean? When you're really tired and run down, you need way more per day, depending on where you are in life. And it's okay to be in a place whereby you need more sleep, and let yourself sleep that. Then other times, you're full of energy, whatever. Like when you look at some of these, like, highly evolved beings, they hardly sleep, and it's not like they're sleep deprived, but they don't need it. So it depends, your cycles. So don't think that, oh, I need to get 8 every day, otherwise I'm going to write here that I'm not sleeping enough. So I can't tell you what to write and what's enough sleep. Don't ask me that. I'm not a sleep specialist, but I'm telling you that there's variations here that are, your acceptable limit may not be the same as somebody else. So whatever, you know, type in that, sex, type in that, self-preservation or survival, type in that. How you going in all those? Obviously food and water is, you know, one, so I'm not gonna write water there. But yeah, so just type in whatever. So, and that's about it. Congratulations, that's it, you're done. If you have anything else we didn't cover, any other observations, notes, self-realizations, you can type it here. If you have none, please write none, because otherwise the form will not let you go past that, and then you submit. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get a PDF in your mail, and you can also download it here. And again, just simple instructions of, like, you know, what you're encouraged to do after this. So thank you very much. I know that has been quite a bit of a long presentation. I hope that made sense. Feel free to use this form as often as possible. As I'm recording this, I don't know when you're going to listen to this, but as I'm recording this, we have not yet launched the Go Limitless course and the Go Limitless coaching. I'm super excited because it's actually mind-blowingly cool. It's the coolest thing I've done in decades. Okay, so I highly encourage you to have a look at the Go Limitless, the course and the coaching. it will help you implement a lot of this stuff, you know. So as I'm recording this is what this is actually on December. This is a Sunday, the 20th of December. I decided to do this then, and it's a nice, beautiful Sunday. So I'm gonna go out now, and I believe this is 2020, by the way. So 20th December 2020. I believe we should start opening up to take enrollments into the course and the coaching soon, in a few days. I believe it, in a few days. I always say that sometimes, and then it turns out to be weeks. But this time, I think we've got most of the stuff together. So in a few days, this will be ready. So that's going to be good, because then we can all use this and the course and the coaching to make 2021 masterfully greater. You know. All right, cool. Thanks so much for your time and your patience. See you later.